Hello students, welcome to a new session on Ambedkar, the Crusade against Casteism. Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar is one of the greatest leaders of modern India. He is well known not only as the chief architect of the Constitution of India, but also as a great social revolutionary with far-reaching vision. Ambedkar was a profound scholar and thinker and also a prolific writer. His charismatic leadership was devoted to the liberation of the marginalized masses of India. Being a friend, philosopher and guide of the downtrodden people, Ambedkar persistently fought against the retrogressive customs and superstitions of Hindu society. He denounced the caste system and fought relentlessly to establish a society based on the democratic ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity. He firmly believed that India would become a democratic egalitarian society only if the Varna system with its inhuman practices of untouchability is discarded forever. Bhimrao Ramji was born on April 14, 1891 and he was the youngest among the 14 children of Ramji Sakpal Bhimbhai. Bhim was hardly 6 years old when his father retired from military service and came down to Dapoli in Konkan. Later they moved to Bombay where young Ambedkar had his early education. Ambedkar got his earliest experience of caste discrimination during his school days. Being born in the lower Mahar caste of Maharashtra, he was never treated equally with other students of higher caste. At school, he had to suffer extreme humiliation and agony, but he was very respectful to his teacher, and as a mark of regard for his guru, he began to call himself Ambedkar, the name of his teacher. Ambedkar passed BA in 1913. Then he joined Columbia University, New York as a Gaikwad scholar for further studies and obtained his MA degree for his thesis Ancient Indian Commerce in 1915. He was working simultaneously on another project, namely National Dividend of India, a historic and analytic study. Ambedkar had completed this thesis, which was accepted by Columbia University in June 1916. In 1924, the Columbia University officially awarded the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for his dissertation on the evolution of provincial finance in British India. Ambedkar left America in June 1916 and joined the London School of Economics in the same year. He could not continue long there as the period of his scholarship was over and he returned to India in 1917. Matching his outstanding academic achievement to his credit, Ambedkar could demonstrate his talent as a prolific writer. Some of his famous work include Who Are Shudras in 1946, The Untouchables Caste in India, Thoughts on Linguistic States 1955, The Buddha and His Dhamma, Pakistan or Partition of India in 1940, etc. Ambedkar's intellectual personality was developed under the influence of both Indian as well as Western thinkers like Gautam Buddha, Jyotiba Phule, John Dewey as his mentor at Columbia University, Karl Marx, Justice M.G. Ranade, etc. The ideas of John Dewey, Edwin R. A. Seligman, the Fabians and British idealists had a deep impact on Ambedkar. He borrowed his notion of religion from Burke, theory of government from J.S. Mill and Jefferson, and the notion of social liberty from Booker T. Washington. Ambedkar's experiences of the vice of caste system in his motherland had helped to mold his relentless social critique, and his exposure to the Western system of liberal democracy had sharpened his radical resistance to caste hierarchy. He used the methodology and strategy derived from the Western sources to analyze Indian society. Though Ambedkar had admired the ideals of Western liberalism and Marxian socialism, he pursued their perfection in Buddhism. All the aforementioned thinkers influenced Ambedkar in one way or another and shaped as well as reshaped his convictions about a pragmatic approach to social justice. In order to understand the life and thoughts of Ambedkar, it will be helpful to see the influences of these personalities on Ambedkar. Ambedkar had great reverence for the life and message of Buddha. He appreciated Lord Buddha's belief in the human capacity to achieve salvation without any extraneous aid. He regarded Buddha as his master and his teachings as the complete antithesis of orthodox Hinduism. Lord Buddha had revolted against traditional Hinduism. According to Ambedkar, it was a powerful revolt against the domination of priestly class in Hindu society. Against this unjust way of oppression and exploitation in the name of religion, Buddhism attempted to restore the law of reason and rationalism in the life of Indian people. Buddha fervently followed the doctrine of egalitarianism and humanism, and his message was for all human beings irrespective of caste, creed or gender. Ambedkar was very much fascinated by the personality and the philosophical profoundness of the founder of Buddhism. Buddha's indomitable faith in the capacity of every human individual to shape one's own destiny always appealed to Ambedkar. Buddha's principles and philosophy had an immense impact on Ambedkar, believed that accepting Buddhism is indeed a way out of the caste presence of traditional Hindu society. Ambedkar himself proved his pragmatic attitude in his perception of social justice by his own conversion to Buddhism, and he was successful in leading a remarkable number of downtrodden untouchable to Buddhist faith. Mahatma Phule, the Martin Luther of Maharashtra, was considered by Ambedkar as the supreme model of our social reformers. He described Phule as the greatest Shudra of modern India. Ambedkar remarked that Mahatma Phule made the lower classes of Hindu conscious of their plight and preached that social democracy was more vital than independence from foreign rule. Phule brought Ambedkar closer to the liberal and reformist tradition of Maharashtra. Under Phule's influence, Ambedkar overcome the elitist limitations of the liberal reformist movement by consciously organizing the masses for a revolt against the oppressive machinery of casteism. Ambedkar believed that the driving force of principles and policies lies in their practicality and implementation. Hence, his main achievement was his positive contribution to the radical reformist theory and practice in Indian conditions. In Maharashtra, Ambedkar continued the revolutionary work initiated by Jyotiba Phule. M.G. Ranade was another great personality who had influenced Ambedkar. Both of them strove for the removal of the evils prevailing in Hindu society and for its reorganization. Like Ranade, Ambedkar also regarded the advent of the British in India as providential and responsible for the intellectual awakening of India by introducing the concepts of liberty, equality, fraternity. The British made Indians feel ashamed of their social customs and moral codes and motivated them for the revaluation of social values besides giving a common system of law and government. Ranade's life had been a relentless struggle against social injustice and evils by vitalizing the conscience of Hindu society, which had become stagnant and morbid. Ambedkar followed his path, and both of them made every effort to fulfill the idea of social democracy. John Dewey was Ambedkar's mentor at Columbia University in USA, and his philosophy of instrumentalism had influenced Ambedkar in developing a pragmatic approach towards the concrete problems before humanity. Ambedkar's acquaintance with Dewey helped him to follow a precise method for analyzing the problems concerning politics, economics, society, religion and history. Besides the above mentioned influence of great thinkers, Ambedkar, on bitter experiences in his homeland, had molded his life, perception and ideas. Ambedkar had personally suffered the impact of caste discrimination and the humiliation for belonging to a lower caste. It may be concluded that It was his own bitter experiences coupled with the learning from great thinkers that made him stand against the outdated and discriminatory Hindu social order that stood in the way of materializing a democratic egalitarian society in India. Now, we will come to the contribution of Ambedkar to Indian society. Ambedkar may not be the first to have started the work of social emancipation and political mobilization of the depressed classes in India, but he was the most effective and successful personality in exposing the inhuman treatment to which they were subjected to in Hindu society. His work was qualitatively different from that of his predecessors, as his goal also was. Ambedkar stood for the social emancipation, economic independence and political awareness of the downtrodden millions composed mainly of the untouchable caste, the Dalit communities, scattered all over India. He motivated them to give up the attitude of compliance with the evils of inequality and injustice and to fight against the forces of oppression and exploitation. Ambedkar had become the symbol of liberation of the Avarnas or the inferior caste in modern India. His message of social justice and democratic awakening could reach the marginalized classes of Hindu society, which had so far been kept out of proper education and prestigious jobs. Ambedkar combined in himself the role of social reformer, a political leader and a spiritual guide of the untouchables. His socio-political philosophy aims at the total awakening of the weaker and backward sections of our society. More than this, it has the potential to benefit and serve the broader interest of the humankind as a whole. Ambedkar's mission had been determined by the desire to secure justice, social, economic and political for the deprived sections of Indian society. In his writings, an alternative social, economic and political framework emerges, wherein the pragmatic and visionary dimensions of his thinking meet. His social philosophy emphasized the values of liberty, equality and fraternity. According to Ambedkar, these three ideals were inherent in the teachings of Buddha. This trinity of ideals had a bearing in the Constituent Assembly, where he delineated and emphasized the need of social democracy. While defining the basis of Indian Constitution, he was conscious of keeping the proper space for the rights and interests of the weaker sections of society. In his scholarly pursuits as well as his political activities, Ambedkar was driven by the desire to comprehend the vital issues of his time and to find solutions for the problems of Indian society. He raised certain pressing issues that no one was willing to take up for deal with and made secure that they are not ignored and trampled over by the so-called upper classes. Ambedkar organized and inaugurated a number of conferences, attended a large number of meetings, started newspapers and wrote articles and editorials and books. The main theme in all these activities was the emancipation of the lowly, the poor and the untouchables. He repeatedly asked the Hindus to change their ways, yet despite his repeated requests, atrocities imposed on the untouchables continued and they were treated as less than human beings. This had been a persistent source of Ambedkar's antagonism towards the attitude of upper caste Hindus. Now, we will come to the Ambedkar's views on caste and untouchability. According to B.R. Ambedkar, the caste system has been a blot on Hinduism and it has robbed the Hindu religion of its vitality and brilliance. Untouchability is the worst feature of caste system and it has been deeply embedded in the Hindu minds through centuries. Ambedkar held that it acted as a powerful barrier against the emotional integration of the people of India, as their entire outlook was colored by it. It divided the Indian society into high born and low born caste, and untouchability remained the exercise of a predominant hold on the social life of Indian society, especially the Hindus. He narrated the damages done by the caste system on the society, and so he set annihilation of caste as the primary goal of any social reform in India. His prime concern was to remove all the barriers to the establishment of an egalitarian society, and hence he fought insistently for human dignity and social equality. The most important part of Ambedkar's career was, in a nutshell, to secure a social and political equality. He therefore pleaded the realization of economic and social democracy in India. For political democracy was unreal unless preceded by economic and social democracy. According to Karl Bhatia, to Ambedkar, social democracy means to enable every person to lead an all-round life involving as much the cultivation of the mind as also the satisfaction of basic physical wants. This has been the aim of human society. The cultivation of the mind depends on Sadama, the combination of Pradva, Shila, Karuna and Maitri. Sadama means the eradication and amelioration of all social barriers between man and man. The worth and not the birth is the measure of man. It promotes equality, it kindles in man's the spirit of fraternity. This is on the one hand the way of life based on liberty, equality and fraternity. That is on the other hand the way of attaining a government based on social democracy, which is the cornerstone as well as the milestone of social justice. Social justice therefore cannot be confined to an elite minority, but should take within its range all the disadvantaged and neglected segments of the society. In his famous work Annihilation of Caste, Ambedkar pointed out the demerits of caste system. He held that the caste system is not merely division of labours into unnatural and watertight compartments. According to Ambedkar, 1. The caste system is a hierarchy in which the division of labours are graded one above the other. 2. The division of labour is not spontaneous or based on natural aptitude. It is based on the social status of the parents, a positively pernicious principle. And third, it is based on the dogma of predestination. Fourth one, the caste system is negative in character and merely prohibits persons belonging to different castes from intermarrying. This has made the Hindus a race of pygmies and dwarfs, stunt in stature and wanting in stamina. Caste has disorganized and demoralized the Hindus. It has made the Hindu society a myth and has prevented the emergence of a Hindu consciousness and has obstructed every form of common activity. Sixth one, caste is responsible for the generation of antisocial spirit among the Hindus. It is not confined to a caste alone, but has gone deeper and has poisoned the mutual relations of subcaste as well. The existence of caste and caste consciousness has served to keep alive the memory of past feuds between caste and has prevented solidarity. Seventh one, caste has killed public spirit and destroyed the sense of public charity. Caste has made public opinion impossible. A Hindu public is caste. His responsibility is only to his caste. His locality is restricted only to his caste. Virtue has become caste ridden and morality has become caste bound. Eighth one, lumping together of individuals into a few sharply marked off classes is based on a superficial view of man, not worthy of serious consideration. And ninth one, caste has given birth to other social institutions and customs not conducive to growth of any civilized society. Hence, Ambedkar concluded that caste system is the source of all injustice to the lower caste people by denying them basic human rights and preventing them from rising to the cultural level of higher caste. So, the untouchables are forced to remain uncivilized and backward against their will to live a decent life. It also prevented the sense of fraternity in the Indian society. Untouchability, according to Ambedkar, meant the imposition of social isolation on a person by the unnatural standards of birth in a certain caste. The untouchables were prohibited from using public roads, wells, schools, shops and similar other public utilities. They were never allowed to come into the mainstream of social political life. The upper caste people always treated them as inferior in status and polluting in conduct. According to Ambedkar, untouchability is the notion of defilement, pollution, contamination and the ways and means of getting rid of that defilement. It is a case of permanent hereditary stain which nothing can cleanse. Thus, the practice of untouchability reinforced the inequality inherent in the caste hierarchy, and hence Ambedkar foresaw that only a casteless society with its own inner strength can defend itself and attain the goal of independence. He suggested intercaste marriage and interdining for the purpose, although the latter by itself is too weak to create an enduring social bond. Further, he felt that hereditary priesthood should go and it should remain open to all the co-religionists endowed with appropriate qualifications as certified by the state. However, he was sure that Savarna Hindus with their self-asserted superiority would never accept these suggestions. Ambedkar observed that the social and economic conditions of the untouchable people were very disgraceful and pitiable. Extreme poverty coupled with untouchability ruined their life. Ambedkar therefore started his mission to elevate the untouchables millions in the Indian soil first to the level of human beings. He demanded that their social and economic conditions must be improved and they should no more be treated as the untouchables. He stood firmly for their human rights and for the respectful place for them in Hindu society. Ambedkar had realized that unless the depressed classes do not get their share in political power, their subjugation would not end. In 1918, he demanded separate electorate to the untouchables. In the second roundtable conference, Ambedkar succeeded in convincing the British authorities the need for a separate electorate for the depressed classes and got it. A separate electorate would mean that untouchables would vote for their own candidate and be allowed their votes separate from the Hindu majority. Now, we are going to discuss the debate between Gandhi and Ambedkar. Gandhi had obvious disagreement with Ambedkar about the formation of a separate electorate for the untouchables, whom he addressed as the Harijans or God's beloved people. He was afraid that such a decision would separate them from the Hindus. Gandhi vehemently criticized the principle of separate electorate and began a fast unto death against it. Disturbed by Gandhi's attitude towards untouchables, Ambedkar wrote his Annihilation of Caste and made a historic announcement at Yola that the untouchables would desert the Hindu faith to accept another religion. Gandhi considered Varna system as an ideal form of social organization for a village economy. According to Gandhi, there is no scope for any inequality in the Varna scheme. He views all Varnas as equal because the community depends equally on the complementary work of all Varnas. It brings material well-being to society and spiritual freedom to individuals. Gandhian opposition to untouchability is based on his immutable faith in the spiritual unity of all life. Emphasizing the ideal of social and political justice and equality, Gandhi vehemently condemned untouchability as an impassable barrier in the path of India's progress. For Gandhi, no Swaraj is possible if untouchability prevails. He viewed this as a moral problem, and hence it is necessary first to bring about a change in the attitude of people. Gandhi disapproved the idea of separate electorate for untouchables, for he believed that the untouchables were part of the Hindu society and separate electorate may divide the Hindu society. But Ambedkar's dislike towards Indian National Congress and Gandhi continued. He felt that the issue of untouchability and caste system were relegated to background by the Congress. Hence, he preferred to work outside the Congress party, and his views in this regard were expressed thus: what Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchables, and Mr. Gandhi and the emancipation of the untouchables. These works was familiarized one with Ambedkar's skepticism about the Gandhian way to solve the problems faced by the depressed classes. To him, more than untouchability, it was important to understand the problem of untouchability. So, he demanded for special electorate for the depressed classes, so that they have their own representation in the legislative bodies to protect their interest. From the above account, it is clear that while Gandhi and Ambedkar wanted to remove untouchability and establish an egalitarian society, their approach to the problem and its solution were different. This was stated by Dharam C. Vyas thus: Gandhi's viewpoint A. Abolition of untouchability, B. Maintain Varna Vyavastha, which he argued was different from caste system, a difference so subtle and difficult to comprehend. C. He believed that the hearts of the upper caste could be changed to treat the lower caste equally, and his entire struggle was directed towards bringing that change of heart. Ambedkar's viewpoint A. Abolition of caste system, B. Ambedkar believed that the caste system derived its strength from the Vedas and Shastras, and hence asked for the destruction of the Shastras, a proposition so strong and it provided the ammunition to the detractors. C. He wanted a strict legislation in place to make sure that caste could not be misused again. To Gandhi, one way of removing the curse of untouchability was to bring about a change in the minds of caste Hindus. He was not in favor of legislative measures to support and strengthen the untouchables. He felt that by enforcing laws, one cannot remove untouchability. On the other hand, what Ambedkar sought was a political and legal remedy to these social problems. It goes to the credit of Ambedkar that his tireless effort to ensure the real freedom of India's millions of untouchables could produce a national consensus in favor of abolition of untouchability. Its final victory is the granting of certain constitutional measures to safeguard the rights and interests of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. In order to remove social inequalities and to achieve the goal of universal social justice, the unique device of reservation system was incorporated into the Constitution of India. It is exactly protective discrimination for balancing the benefits of social welfare states between the have and the have-nots. It was mainly designed to uplift the backward sections of the society without hampering the rights of the caste Hindus and other advanced sections of society. Fulfilling the vision of the architect of Indian Constitution, it carried specific provisions to eradicate the social and economic evils due to the age-old caste system. One of the priorities of the Constitution of India is indeed the abolition of untouchability and the declaration of equal dignity and status to all citizens. But in spite of all these provisions provided for the depressed classes in India, their struggle for social justice continues even today. We can conclude that although the goals pursued by Gandhi and Ambedkar were almost the same, their strategies differed. Ramachandra Guha rightly remarked, Gandhi wished to save Hinduism by abolishing untouchability, whereas Ambedkar saw a solution for his people, outside the fold of the dominant religion of the Indian people. Gandhi was a rural romantic who wished to make the self-governing village the bedrock of free India. Ambedkar, an admirer of city life and modern technology, who dismissed the Indian villages as a den of iniquity. Gandhi was crypto-anarchist who favored nonviolent protest while being suspicious of the state. Ambedkar, a steadfast constitutionalist who worked within the state and sought solutions to social problems with the aid of the state. However, in spite of these differences, Gandhi and Ambedkar had set out on a journey of profound engagement with each other by showing mutual attention and interest. Despite the differences in their approaches to social problems, both Gandhi and Ambedkar began to admire each other at the far end of their life. By the end of his life, Ambedkar duly recognized Gandhi's contributions and acknowledged that the depressed classes had been nearest and dearest to Gandhi. Both Ambedkar and Gandhi dreamt of a strong and united India, an India in peace, prosperity and progress, and an India in which freedom is accessible to all without discrimination. When India became independent, Baba Saheb Ambedkar became the first Law Minister of independent India. He once said that he had taken up the position not for any individual gain, but to safeguard the larger interest of the depressed classes in India. However, in spite of the effort initiated by Ambedkar, even after 7 decades of democratic functioning, there are still excluded groups in India who face marginalization. If we want them to contribute to the development of the nation and to the reconstruction of the society, it becomes imperative that the disequilibrium suffered by them is removed. A comprehensive democracy alone is envisaged by Ambedkar will enable us to meet this challenge and help us to improve the conditions of the marginalized and excluded group. Now, let us summarize this unit. We have tried to analyze the different aspects of the social philosophy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The influence of the great thinkers that had shaped his life and thought are mentioned. Ambedkar's views on caste and untouchability and his remarks on the demerits of caste system, as he mentioned in his famous work Annihilation of Caste, are discussed in detail. His contribution to Indian society is also highlighted. Ambedkar denounced the caste system and fought relentlessly to establish a society based on the democratic ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity. And finally, the disparities in the views of Gandhi and Ambedkar are also explained. Now, there are few assignments to work out. Compare and contrast the social and political views of Gandhi and Ambedkar. Second one, how did Ambedkar envisage the integration of the depressed classes? Next, examine the importance of Buddhism in the social philosophy of Ambedkar. And fourth one, Dr. Ambedkar's humanism has been a movement for social freedom of the oppressed and exploited. Substantiate your views. And another assignment is that discuss the influence of any 2 great thinkers that had shaped the life and thought of Ambedkar. Now, there are some reference books for you. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, The Untouchables. Second one, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar and his writing and speeches. Third one, Dr. Ambedkar, his Annihilation of Caste. And another book is that Dr. Ambedkar and Humanism by Jadwa. This session will be followed by another unit on Ambedkar and Constitution. Hope this session was beneficial to you. Thank you and bye.